This is Din Djarin, otherwise known as the Mandalorian, one of the more recent and coolest characters from the Star Wars universe. And this is the Mafex Mandalorian 2.0 figure. This strong and silent bounty hunter is a fan favorite amongst many Star Wars fans, so let's see if this figure lives up to the name. Starting with the front of the box, we've got tons of titles and logos relating to the character and company, a plastic window to peek inside and see what you'll be getting, a little image of the figure in the corner. On one side, we've got more logos and titles, and then an image of Mando to showcase him a bit more. On the bag, we've got quite a few stuff going on, showing the different head sculpts, accessories that come with the figure, as well as some poses you can recreate with the figure yourself. On the other side, we've once again got some titles and logos, as well as another picture of Mando with Grogu. On the top, we have a picture of Mando himself with relating titles, and a bunch of jibber jabber on the bottom. But that's enough of the box. I know what you're really here for. So let's get to the good stuff inside. I never got the first Mafex Mandalorian, but I do know that for this 2.0 version, they definitely upped their accessory game, both in amounts and quality. Starting off with hands, we got the basic fisted hands, we've got some open hands, a different pair of open hands you can use for supporting rifle weight, or just to look cool, and here we have our first trigger finger hands, this one specifically meant for the blaster. Now, unlike the 1.0 Mando, this blaster is gray, and not pink, which I found was pretty funny about the first one. Now, these next trigger finger hands are slightly different from the blaster ones. If you can tell, they're a little more tilted in order to better grip the rifle. This rifle is very well sculpted, and has nice details all throughout, from silver paint on the body with little gold detailings, with the end of the rifle having that little blue finish to indicate the usage of the rifle. Next up, we've got a different accessory wielding pair of hands. This one specifically made for possibly, in my opinion, the coolest weapon in all of Star Wars, the Darksaber. The hilt is crafted perfectly, and the little cracks in the black center of the blade give it such a cool and accurate look to the weapon. And I'm not lying when I say I think it's the coolest weapon. In fact, I even have a Darksaber of my own that I bought at Disneyland, and it's badass. But back to the accessories, you get not only the Darksaber itself, but also a separate hilt piece for when you want it powered down. Here we have another accessory holding hand, this one with a smaller hole meant to hold a vibro knife. For a smaller accessory, it's pretty detailed and looks very good for its size. And the last of the weapon holding hands, here we have a slightly angled pair of hands meant to wield the Beskar spear. It's a pretty long accessory and was a little tough for me to get into the hands, but its bendable material helped in moving it into place. But also be careful not to bend it too much and ruin its shape. Here we have a more relaxed pair of open hands, and lastly, a pair of pointing fingers. Now into Mando's gear, here we have an electricity effect piece for the rifle, which can easily be slipped onto the end. Mando also comes with extra pieces for gauntlets, first up being the flamethrower for his right arm. The flame has nice coloring to it, starting off with blue and transitioning to the bright orange at the end. For the left gauntlet, we have Mando's whistling bird shooting out. For me, this is one of his coolest gadgets he used in the show. It's very quick and effective at taking multiple enemies down at once. If you lift the wired cape up, you'll see Mando as a plain back piece, which can be swapped out in order for you to equip the jetpack. First, you'll gently take out the back piece, and then swap in the piece that holds the jetpack in place. I suggest putting the different back piece in alone first, and then connecting the jetpack to it after as so. It has a pretty solid hold and won't be shaking off easily, which is nice for when you're trying to get Mando into certain poses. To show it off, you'll just have to move the cape to whichever side. The jetpack also comes with two fire pieces to attach to the thrusters underneath. Now personally, I'll always have the jetpack holding piece on instead, because the cape will be covering the hole most of the time anyways, so it just saves you the time of having to constantly swap that part. Now if you look at the bottom-ish part of the cape, you'll see there's a little slit in it, which will help when wanting to attach a rifle to Mando's back. Inside the box, you'll actually find an entire page of instructions dedicated to this single function, so you'll have a second rifle accessory meant just for putting on his back. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I had troubles trying to get the little loop piece to go through the slit of the cape and connect to Mando's back. I tried many times, but they really didn't make it that easy for you. And honestly, I eventually gave up and just connected the strap on the rifle to Mando's front strap piece, but doing only that won't allow it to stay on very well. Anyways, we have this firing grappling hook accessory, which I assume would go onto a gauntlet. And maybe it's just me and I'm a little dumb, but I can't find anywhere for it to connect to. On Mando's side, we also have a little holster to hold his blaster. It fits very well inside, and it's not a hassle to take out either. Now moving on to the head sculpts, here we have the regular Beskar helmet that Din Djarin wears throughout the series. The heads are very easy to swap, so here we have basically the same head sculpt, except this one has a little flashlight on the side of his helmet. It's not the biggest difference, but hey, it's something I guess. And now for one of the coolest head sculpts, you also have to swap out the neck, but But here we have the unmasked head, and I gotta say, this is one of the best unmasked sculpts I've ever seen. I think they absolutely killed it with Pedro Pascal's likeness. And just, yeah, it's so good. Just look at it. And we can't forget about one of the best accessories to come with the Mando figures, Grogu himself. And this tiny Grogu comes with a little ball joint at his neck for little head articulation, as well as a little bit of articulation for both his arms and hands. They even added his little feet on the bottom. I love this little Grogu. I think they made it extremely adorable, and to add on to the cuteness level, there's even a happy hat sculpt for him too. You also get another Grogu, except this one comes in a little bag so that Mando can carry him along with him. The base of the bag is plastic, but the straps are soft goods, and unfortunately not the same shade of brown either, but it doesn't bother me too much. You easily slip the strap over Mando's shoulder and head, and now you have the cutest father and son duo in Star Wars history. Alright, starting off with Mando's articulation, he can look this far up and this far down. The articulated neck allows for a lot of tilt and movement in every direction. Your head can also spin around like an owl. The shoulder plates are on their own little piece, but it's connected to the top of the arm, so it won't really be able to get out of the way the higher you go. So because of that, your arms are only able to go about this high up. You do get butterfly joints, arms can spin all the way around, you get this very nice bicep swivel. Your elbow, however, can only bend about 90 degrees. And although I forgot to show it off on video, you do get rotation for the gauntlets, and as always, full range of movement on the wrists. Now, I'm not sure if it's only my figure, and I didn't want to risk pushing its limits, but unfortunately, it seems this figure has little to no torso movement. What I show off here is as much as I was able to move it. You get drop down hips, and your legs are able to go up this high, and about this far back. Much like the elbows, unfortunately, you only get a 90-degree bend at the knee. Your ankles have full range of movement with very little restrictions, and of course, some toe articulation. The cape is also wired along the sides for some dynamic poses. So when it comes to articulation, Mando here is definitely very limited. He doesn't have some crazy articulation like other Mafex figures, Spider-Man for example, but that's fine. What you get works for this character. Mando is a guy in some pretty heavy-duty Beskar armor. Besides, it's not like he does some crazy acrobatics or anything in the show. With the articulation given in this figure, you'll still be able to make him look as badass as ever and fight like the skilled bounty hunter he is. For the size comparisons, here we have Mando next to the reissue of both Mafex Hush Superman and the Mafex Hush Batman Black version, really showing off the Mafex capes here. Here he is next to the SH Figuarts Deadpool, and one of my least favorite figures in my collection, the Play 112 Darth Maul. If you saw my review on him, you'll know why I don't like him much. I can't lie though, these two look sick together, even though they most likely have never met in Star Wars canon. Here he is next to the Amazing Yamaguchi Iron Man and Amazing Yamaguchi Bakugo. Here we have him next to the Jada Toys Fei Long and Ryu. Here are the Marvel Legends Extremis Iron Man and the No Way Home Green Goblin for some different armored characters. And lastly, here we have Mando next to the Mezco Predator and Xenomorph. I think the scaling works well here, and I think they could be some cool alien species Mando would have some tough fights with. When it comes to Mando figures, I think this is definitely the best one out at the moment. Granted, I don't have any other Mando figures, but just by looks alone, I think this one wins. The proportions and color on this one just look right. However, if you guys would like to see me do a comparison between this Mandalorian and the most recent Black Series one, let me know in the comments. This is my first import Star Wars action figure. I am not counting this motherfucker. And it definitely makes me want to get the other Mafex Star Wars figures like Boba Fett and Ahsoka. Although the articulation feels limited, it correlates with the character and how he moves in the show, so it's not the biggest problem for myself, but I can't speak for everyone here. Mafex, however, did not hold back with the accessories, and you're definitely getting your money's worth in that category. I 100% recommend this figure to any Mandalorian or Star Wars fan, because I think you'll really enjoy your time with it and posing it around. Anyways, that brings us to the end of the video. Make sure to leave a comment on what figure you'd like me to review next. If you found this review helpful, consider leaving a like to help out the channel, and subscribe for future reviews on more figures. And as always, see you guys later, and have a great time collecting. This is the way.